My last video reached almost 1 million views, and then you know what happened. And now I'm back again with everything that was in that video plus a lot more. So if you've been asking in the comments where the MJ video went, this is the answer. Stay right here. Right now, a photo of Michael Jackson sitting next to Jeffrey Epstein is being shared everywhere. People are making conclusions, people are connecting dots, and most of them, honestly, have not read even a single page of the actual files. In this video, you're going to see what the FBI actually said about Michael Jackson after investigating him for 10 years. You're going to see what's really inside the Epstein files. And you're also going to see why a new story about MJ rescuing kids from Epstein's island is going viral right now, and why the dates alone prove it never happened. Two truths, both supported by evidence. Let's get into it. Real quick, let's make sure we're all on the same page before we go further. Now, I'm not here to waste anyone's time, so I'm not going to go too deep into who Michael Jackson and Jeffrey Epstein are because most of my audience already knows that. So, let's start with our previous episode, the video that got deleted. Here's what happened. For that video, the comments were wild. People were writing, "Where did the MJ video go? Why did you delete the truth? Bring it back." So that's exactly what we're doing today. But this time we're going even deeper because since that video was posted, new things have come out, including a viral fake video that millions of people shared thinking it was real proof. But let's start from the beginning. Let's start with the most powerful investigative agency in the world and what they actually found after a 10-year investigation into Michael Jackson.
Just when you thought you knew everything there was to know about the often bizarre life of Michael Jackson, more information is revealed. The FBI has released more than 300 pages of formerly classified documents relating to the late King of Pop.
The FBI investigated for 10 years. Here's what they found. From 1993 to 2005, a total of 12 years, the FBI carried out a full investigation into Michael Jackson. We're talking about more than 600 pages of documents, with the most powerful law enforcement agency in the United States using unlimited resources to investigate one person for over a decade. And on December 9, 2004, they officially closed the case. Their conclusion, in their own words, was that there were no outstanding leads or evidence items.
Page file on Jackson. Turns out many celebrities routinely end up finding themselves under FBI scrutiny. There are a series of bizarre letters, which included threats against President George Herbert Walker Bush. Frank Paul Jones writes he'd commit mass at a Michael Jackson concert, if necessary, in an attempt to Michael. Jones was eventually arrested outside the home of Jackson's parents.
Brian Oxman, Michael Jackson's family lawyer, reviewed every single page and said this: "In all those pages, all those hours of investigation, there was not a single piece of evidence showing that Michael Jackson did anything wrong. Not even one piece. The FBI's final report stated it clearly. No evidence of criminal conduct on Jackson's part." Think about what that means. The most advanced investigative team in the country, 10 years, hundreds of pages, and they came back with nothing. They took every computer he owned. But it goes even deeper than just a general investigation. In 2003, when police raided Neverland Ranch, they didn't just search the property. They seized 16 hard drives, every single computer Michael Jackson owned. Those drives were then sent to a special unit inside the FBI called the Computer Analysis Response Team, or CART. These are the same experts who break into terrorist networks and track child predators. This is not a low-level team. These are some of the best digital forensic experts in the world. They examined everything, every file, every search, every click, every download, even deleted items, the kind of data people think is gone forever. Their report was released on April 5, 2004, and the conclusion matched everything else. No outstanding leads or evidence items. There was zero record of accessing or searching for anything illegal. Not a single file. Here's the thing about digital evidence. If someone is guilty, the traces are there. You can hide many things in real life, but you can't completely hide what you've done on a computer, especially not from a team this skilled. And they found nothing. The trial result? Not guilty on all 14 counts. Then came the trial. On June 13, 2005, in Santa Barbara County Superior Court, after months of testimony, the jury delivered their verdict. The jury had deliberated for 32 hours over 7 days. They heard everything, every witness, every piece of evidence, every argument from both sides. Count 1, conspiracy, not guilty. Count 2, administering an intoxicating agent, not guilty. Counts 3 and 4, child molestation, not guilty. All 14 counts, not guilty on every single one. Jurors who spoke publicly afterward explained that the prosecution's key witnesses were simply not credible. The accuser's own mother was described in court as incoherent and combative. The case fell apart during cross-examination. And let's be clear about what this verdict was and what it wasn't. It wasn't a technicality, it wasn't a plea deal, it wasn't a case that got thrown out because of a legal loophole. This was a full criminal trial, the kind where the evidence is presented in front of 12 people and they deliberate for over a week before making a decision. Michael Jackson walked out of that courthouse a free man. Legally, he was innocent. So, what's actually in the Epstein files? Okay, now let's talk about the Epstein files, because this is the part that set the whole internet on fire. On December 20, 2025, the Department of Justice released a new batch of Epstein files. Michael Jackson's name appeared, and from that moment, it was everywhere. But here's what was actually in those files when it comes to Michael Jackson. One photograph. A single photo of Michael Jackson with Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton, and Diana Ross at what looks like a celebrity event. That's it. That is the entire connection. Wikipedia's own entry on the Epstein files states this directly. It is unclear why the photograph was in the files, and there is no suggestion that Jackson was aware of or involved in any of Epstein's crimes. Michael Jackson's name also appeared on what the DOJ calls a politically exposed persons list, a list with over 300 other people on it. You know who else is on that list? Elvis Presley and Princess Diana, both of whom died before Epstein's crimes were ever committed. There were no flight logs with Michael Jackson's name, no allegations connecting him to the island, no evidence of any visits, just one photo at what appears to be a public event, and no one even knows when it was taken. That's the full story. That's everything. And the internet turned that into a scandal, the rescue conspiracy. The timeline destroys it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because when the Epstein files were released, two different stories started spreading about Michael Jackson at the same time. The first story, the one we just explained, was about guilt. Michael Jackson was connected to Epstein, so people assumed he must be guilty of something. The second story went in the completely opposite direction. This one said Michael Jackson wasn't the villain, he was the hero. He built Neverland Ranch specifically to protect children from Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking network. This story exploded on TikTok, millions of views, with people sharing it like it was the missing piece that finally explained everything. But here's the problem. Look at the dates.
The verdicts, it's coming in now.
Superior Court of the State of California for the County of Santa Barbara, Santa Maria Division. The people of the State of California plaintiff versus Michael Joe Jackson defendant. Case number 1133603. Count 1 verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of conspiracy as charged in Count 1 of the indictment, dated June 13, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 2 verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of a lewd act upon a minor child as charged in Count 2 of the indictment, dated June 13, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 3 verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of a lewd act upon a minor child.
Michael Jackson bought Neverland Ranch in March 1988. He had actually been planning it since 1983 when he filmed the music video for Say Say on that same property. Jeffrey Epstein didn't buy Little St. James Island until 1998. That's 10 years after Neverland was already built and operating. And the first allegations against Michael Jackson, the Jordan Chandler case, came in 1993. 5 years before Epstein even owned an island. So let's work through that logic together. How could Michael Jackson have built Neverland Ranch to protect children from an island that didn't exist yet? How could the 1993 allegations against him be retaliation for interfering with a trafficking network that wouldn't be set up for another 5 years? The math doesn't work. The story falls apart the moment you look at when things actually happened. The fake Macaulay Culkin video. But the rescue story didn't stop at the timeline problem. It got more attention in the form of a video that went massively viral. In February 2026, a clip started spreading of what sounded like Macaulay Culkin saying, "Michael Jackson saved me from getting on a plane to that tiny island." Millions of shares. People called it the proof they had been waiting for. There was just one problem. It wasn't real.
Michael Jackson mentioned in the files as rescuing children. I've seen this online as well. I'm not entirely sure where this comes from, because in short, the answer is no. There are 207 results for Michael Jackson when searching the Epstein files. We've said this before, we'll say it again. There is no suggestion that appearing in the documents implies any wrongdoing. In the files, there is a photo of Michael Jackson with Epstein, as well as listings on the singer's tour dates. It also seems Epstein was a fan of Michael Jackson, as there's an email asking for free concert tickets. There is one document that appears to contain a statement from an Epstein victim saying she spoke to Michael Jackson on the phone while at Epstein's house. That's EFTA01695923. This is the quote. It says, redacted, mentioned that during one of her visits to Epstein's residence, she spoke to Michael Jackson over the telephone. In our search, we found no documents suggesting Michael Jackson was involved in saving victims from Epstein.
On February 18, 2026, Snopes fact-checked the video. They ran the audio through something called a deep fake detector, a tool that analyzes whether audio is AI generated. The result showed a very high likelihood of AI generation. The cadence sounded unnatural. The tone didn't match Culkin's real voice. And here's the thing. Macaulay Culkin has been doing interviews for decades. He's been on Joe Rogan. He's done interviews for Esquire. He has talked about Michael Jackson many times. And in none of those interviews, not once did he ever mention Jeffrey Epstein. Not even once. The fake clip was created in February 2026, right after the Epstein files were released. It wasn't discovered evidence. It was manufactured content. Something made to go viral and support a story that the timeline had already proven impossible. Someone created it, someone spread it, and millions of people believed it without checking. This is why this conspiracy actually hurts Michael Jackson. Here's the part I really want you to think about. When the Epstein files were released, a lot of people who care about Michael Jackson's legacy held on to the rescue story, and you can understand why. It's a story that gives meaning to his suffering. It suggests maybe he wasn't just unfairly accused. Maybe he was actually fighting against real evil. It turns pain into purpose. But here's what actually happens when you spread a fake conspiracy, even one with good intentions. You make it easier for people to dismiss every real defense of Michael Jackson as just another conspiracy theory.
Everybody wanted to meet Michael or be with Michael. And then he likes you.
It was a fantasy.
The days were filled with magical...
It's like hanging out with a friend that's more your age.
Just kid things. They were just doing kid things.
It was easy to believe that he was just that.
Everybody wanted to meet Michael or be with Michael, and then he would like you. It was a fantasy. The days were filled with magic. It was like hanging out with a friend who was closer to your age. Just kid things. They were simply doing kid things. It was easy to believe that he was just that. When someone shares an AI-generated audio clip of Macaulay Culkin saying something he never said and it gets debunked, suddenly all the real evidence starts to look less credible to people who are unsure. The FBI investigation, the 10 years of forensics, the not guilty verdict, all of it starts to get dismissed as just conspiracy stuff. And there's another cost too. While people were going viral sharing that fake Culkin clip, there was a real Epstein survivor named Maria Farmer who had reported Epstein to the FBI back in 1996, and she was ignored for 12 years. Real survivors, real cases, real stories of being failed by the system were getting less attention because the focus was on a deepfake. The people who actually helped Epstein operate, the lawyers, the politicians, the wealthy men who enabled him, they want the noise. They want people distracted by Michael Jackson conspiracy theories. That's not how we find answers.
Only reason that I don't condemn both sides for the hype and hysteria that has surrounded this release is because of the survivors. And to the extent that they have a legitimate need for transparency, for any type of revelation that there were people in positions of power who could have done something about what was done to them and did not, I understand that. Do you believe that exists? And is that this list of 20?
I don't think there's going to be any kind of list, but remember, let's put this in context. Maria Farmer, as you mentioned, reported to the FBI, the first whistleblower, in 1996, almost 30 years ago. And over the years, this has been one of the largest government and law enforcement failures in U.S. history.
Both truths can exist at the same time. So here's where we stand, and I want to be really clear about this. Truth number one, Michael Jackson was innocent. The FBI investigated him for 10 years and found nothing. Their forensics team analyzed 16 computers and found nothing. A full jury trial with 14 counts came back not guilty on every single one. That is documented. That is proven. That is a matter of public record. Truth number two, the Epstein rescue story is not real. The timeline doesn't work. Neverland was built a decade before Epstein even owned an island. The Macaulay Culkin audio was AI-generated and fact-checked as false. There is no evidence, none, that Michael Jackson had any role in fighting Epstein's crimes. You can believe both of these things at the same time. You don't need a fake heroism story to defend Michael Jackson. His real story is already powerful enough. A man who was falsely accused, investigated for over a decade by one of the world's most powerful agencies, taken to court and acquitted, and who died in 2009 before his name was ever fully restored. That's the real story, and it's more than enough. If you want to actually honor Michael Jackson, share the FBI files, share the trial verdict, share the real evidence. Don't share AI deepfakes. Truth matters, and he deserves the truth. One question before you go. Do you think Michael Jackson's name will ever be fully cleared in public, or has too much damage already been done?